Hey, David, I want to— Oh my god, you're naked.
Man, this is my room. Of course I'm naked. What did you expect?
Is that what your genitals look like? Why is it so round?
I am now afraid of what yours looks like. Although I already did a review of the biology book, Xenology, I think. So there's no point in talking about this subject, although I'm now curious about where the information about Kroot's back rubs comes from. Hold up, looking this up.
Xenology, page 49 and 50. Not exactly back rubs, but I can see the argument.
Hold on, I have this book. Let me just... Oh! They have a chest plate that opens up for procreation. Of course, this is also a Magus biologist, so it may be the story of the guy who doesn't understand something and making an assumption, like the story of the monkeys in the 4K setting.
Hold on. Monkey?
Yeah, Arkan Land saw the skeleton of a monkey and assumed the tail being pointed meant it was supposed to have a barb on the tail, despite the fact that even in the modern age, we can see what a person looks like and animals look like, excluding scars, well, most scars, based on their skeletons and skulls. Even if the skull is partially broken, in fact. Hell, we do this with ancient animals too, so the idea of land doing this stupid recreation thing is really, really stupid.
You know, I try my best not to understand the Kroot biology. They're weird. They don't urinate, they don't defecate, and I try my best not to understand them because they tend to grow like weeds and spread like them too. Humans have a habit of doing that as well, but at least humans are easy to take down.
Yeah, there's a good chance that it's just old information, although the Kroot are very interesting of a subject in total. Maybe they should be our subject for today.
Stalling for time again?
Yeah, honestly, I just don't really want to talk about much right now. I want to talk about the Gundam War game, and I know the Halo War game just came out. What is it called? Flashpoint, I think? And looking into that, it looks like the rules are, quote, free, unquote, but I need to register and subscribe to get them.
And I'm not doing that.
I don't want any more companies emailing me random shit I don't care about, really.
Oh, I love Halo. Such a fun game. I have a concept art book for the original Halo 2 that had the Arbiter discovering that the Forerunners are the predecessors to the humans.
Yeah, I saw that the other day. I kind of wish they stuck with that instead of whatever they were doing with Halo 4. But let's get on with this subject. The Kroot, yes, I'm going to be talking about, are probably the most well-known of the auxiliary factions in the Tau Empire. There's a few others, but only one other on the table, and that's the Vespids. But I don't have a lot of information on them. I do have some on the Kroot, but not much. The Kroots in the Xenology book are described as being bird-like, with their bones, despite being solid, hold similarities to modern bird skeletons. This book also describes the arms of the monsters as being odd, having 3-digit hands, with one being an opposable thumb. But their feet appear to be semi-digigrade, but with a longer sole area of the foot, but it has 4 claws, without an ankle claw like most beasts have. But the biology about the Kroot is very odd, as their bodies can adapt and change in one's life, depending on what they eat and how much, with mutations usually being caused by eating too much of any one thing. The Kroot originate on the world of Petch. At some point, an orc ship crashed on the world, and the Kroot ate them, obviously before going to the crash site. The Kroot, now adapting to the greenskins' bodies, started growing better with technology and their natural psychics, causing their flesh shapers to develop in order to figure out what to eat to cause what mutations. Of course, the orcs started spawning on Petch. How do I pronounce this? Petch? Peck? Whatever. Orcs tend to spawn in the area where one dies, so the crash point and the devouring points of the orcs lead to more greenskins to spawn. Of course, the nature of greenskins caused problems to the Kroots, so in comes the Tau Empire. The Tau came to Petch, I'm gonna keep calling it that, during their first sphere expansions, essentially a point where they decided to go to the closest solar systems in the galaxy, and Petch was probably like the third on their list. Over the next 10 years, the Tau decided to slaughter the orcs, who they finally figured out that the orcs should be KOS. The Kroot happened to benefit from the event, so one Kroot Shaper decided to pledge allegiance to the Empire, and because the Tau don't really have a culture of individuality, they kind of just assumed the rest would follow. Of course, the Tau promised them that the world of Petch would not receive their industrial constructions, which, from my research, has been kept. The Kroot homeworld has been kept wild, aside from the war zones with the orcs, who keep coming back, since that's how orcs work. From records I'm seeing, Kroot didn't really dislike the agreement the various tribes were forced into, as it technically benefited all of them. They were starting to mutate from eating too many orcs, so they needed to expand a little bit, and I assume the Krootox mutations came from the orcs, but it is possible it came from something natural on the world, while the Kroothound mutations might be from pure wilderness of the world. On the battlefield, the Kroot are sent in as shock troopers because they tend to be hyper-aggressive and rather self-sacrificial, so long as their goals are met. During these moments, some Kroot go into a berserker rage and start eating everything in sight, though this is very rare. Shapers tend to be the ones to put these guys down, knowing that their devouring will cause mutations in themselves and the tribe. Tau, for this and a multitude of other reasons, tend to avoid being too close to the Kroot on the field of battle. The other reason is the fact that Tau can't hit the broadside of a barn from the inside with a knife. Wait, what do you mean 11th edition is letting them shoot their rifles in melee? What? Okay, ignoring that fact. So, the Damocles Crusade, the Kroot came across Grimlock 17th Dragoons when they crashed down on the world of Silkel? Such a dumb spelling. I'm putting it right here. Look at this. Look at how dumb this spelling is. But the Kroot carnivores immediately jumped the humans that crashed near them, not being smart enough to realize that they shouldn't attack everything on sight, and the Tau being too proud to admit they keep stupidly castrating and forcing them into every caste system. But the Dragoons called their friends, the Scythes of the Emperor, and the two beat the living tar out of the Kroot so hard they decided to phone home, and the Tau just noped out. I'm finding different information about this part of the story. Some say the Scythes destroyed the world's population and the Dragoons took it. Some are saying the Tau abandoned the Kroot, and some are saying that the Kroot refused to leave and are just guerrilla warring in barely capable capacities. This is the first interaction between the Imperium of Man and the Kroot. But now, Kroot are basically just mercenaries. Believe it or not, sometimes Inquisitors and rogue traders will actually be able to hire Kroot by giving them a stake. Not even kidding. That's the Kroot. They're technically slaves who sold themselves to a faction that looks at them as cannon fodder. So, shove off.